House Bill 707, which I believe is still the original bill, and there is no amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I'm withdrawing the amendment that was presented. We're going to try that again. House 707, House Bill 707 is entitled Assault on First Responders and Social Workers. In the summer of 2002, during a 3-week period, 6 law enforcement officers were shot, 2 of them fatally wounded. And it's kind of ironic, I was in my last committee meeting and my phone went off, and I was missing the 38th annual Peace Officer Memorial Ceremony today in Raleigh. But this bill does basically 3 things. First, it increases the punishment for anyone who commits an assault with a firearm upon any of the following persons who are in the performance of their duty. The bill would increase the punishment from a Class D felony, which is 24 months, to a Class B1 felony, which is life without parole. Persons included in this is a law enforcement officer, a probation officer, parole officer, a member of the North Carolina National Guard, an employee of the detention facility operated under the jurisdiction of the state or local government, an emergency medical technician or other emergency health care provider, a medical responder, and a firefighter. Second, it would increase the punishment for assaulting an executive officer, a legislative officer, or a court officer inflicting serious bodily injury. Currently, there is no distinction between assaulting and inflicting serious bodily injury between that of a legislative officer, executive officer, or court officer and the general public. However, it is a difference in the statute if there is not an infliction of serious bodily injury. So I've just removed that and increased that from a class from an F to a Class E. And then finally, the bill would change the definition under 14-16.101 that defines a court officer. The new language would include an attorney or other individual employed or acting on behalf of the county and the Department of Social Services as defined by 108A-24. We've had some issues with some of our social service workers being assaulted and having to find an appropriate charge to charge the individual that did assault them. It's my hope that once this legislation passes, that in every social services department across our state, there will be clear verbiage listed that if you assault one of these workers out there doing the work of the community, that you will be held accountable. I've had a lot of questions about why I feel that this bill is important, especially the assault on the law enforcement officer. There's no secret that I spent 30 years in law enforcement. And when it comes to assaulting law enforcement with a firearm, I just don't think that your marksmanship should impact your punishment, should in any way mitigate your punishment just because you missed. I've been to officers' funerals. My co-sponsors on this bill, I want to thank those. Between us all, I was adding it up, we have over 120 years of law enforcement experience. And I'm sure my colleagues that are on this bill with me have shared those same sentiments of going to a funeral and shaking the hand of a widow. Marksmanship shouldn't impact this punishment. I'll stand for any questions.
Members of the committee, questions, discussion, debate? Seeing none, and I don't see anyone signed up to speak on 707, Representative Miller, you're recognized for a motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to thank Representative Pirtle. And like he said, we have over 120 years in this room of law enforcement experience. And, just last week, a Columbus County officer pulled into a domestic call, and started taking fire, and his vehicle was shot up. And thank goodness nobody was hurt. So with that, I would move for a favorable
inquiry of the chair. I'm
Yes,
sorry,
sir.
Madam Chair.
Smith.
Was there an amendment to this?
There was an amendment. It's been pulled.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So we are on the original bill.
Can I continue now?
You may continue.
I am sorry, Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you. Would like to move for a favorable report of House Bill 707 and refer to rules.
All those in favor will say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill will be so reported. Next, we're going to take up House Bill 189, which we have the most speakers here on. And staff, I advise that, Sergeant Arms, I advise that if there's anybody who stepped out, that they would be allowed to come back in for the presentation of this bill. I'm hoping everybody's been able to get in. I will limit speakers. I'm trying to get 3 pro and 3 con, and limit to 1 minute so we can hopefully get this bill passed. But I know there were a lot of people from out of town and out of area, that people that are not regularly here, so we want to try to give them the